Hakkōda is a modern consulting firm. We're working to strike that balance between global service integrators and that boutique feel. Especially in the healthcare space, it is incredibly difficult when you get into deciding who gets access to what data and applying regulations and internal policy and this team's need to know versus that team's need to know, and HIPAA compliance and all these different aspects. So being able to manage at a very detailed level who has access to what, being able to apply that in a way that is consistent, easy, and scalable is something that all of our clients are needing. Especially as we get deeper into the life science space and we're looking at how can people share, how can people access, and being able to do that at greater scale, Immuta plays a really key role in solving a lot of those challenges. Well, especially right now in the healthcare space, the risks are really acute. Right, when we look at some of the organizations and some of the cybersecurity incidents that have happened over the last few months, it's really highlighting the importance of cybersecurity in healthcare as a part of US infrastructure and social infrastructure as well. So all of our clients are thinking about it from that perspective and coming to the table and asking about that first right now. Right? Risk and security are key parts of the enablement of the platform, so they continue to move at the speed that they need to. Oftentimes, the access and the security in those pieces can end up feeling almost oppressive within an organization, but using tools like Immuta on top of the Snowflake platform make it enabling. And that's what a lot of them are looking for, because in this environment, they need to be able to move a lot faster with a lower level of risk. Now, there's a lot of focus on speed. Speed to market, speeding up operations, speeding up enablement, and creating the platforms to enable doing that. And just looking at generally the state of pharmaceuticals, people are interested in having more improved outcomes, right? And being able to get more specific, and a lot of conversation around precision medicine. So all of that is becoming very competitive, and there's a lot of speed involved with that, but it's all very, very high cost. So a lot of folks in this risk space then are trying to ask questions of how do we maintain the quality, which I think risk and quality are very tied together when people think about that in developing even like pre-discovery for pharmaceuticals and the kind of data that you need to be able to have access to that. You always have to balance those things. So I think about the Snowflake platform, I think about tools like Immuta and these places where they're meeting. It's helping to build the ability to provide safe access and trust when you're sharing data, when you're collaborating, you're doing the de-identification, and then you're able to consume that appropriately, because there's a lot of that work that needs to happen in that. And the scale of it is getting greater and greater and greater. One of the areas this has become most clear and important in is in genomics. Right, the scale of doing sequencing or using even synthetic data for a large population, the scale is absolutely massive, right? So it becomes a very challenging problem from a governance perspective, much less access and the level of granularity, right? And trying to apply those policies on top of that scale, there's a lot of challenges in that space right now. And then even just without the sharing, even within their system, being able to understand who has access and how they're using it, but then also making it available in a safe way for researchers, for physicians, for others in the organization that are going to need to do it. And as they're trying to make their solutions more and more valuable, you need more data. You need to enrich it. You need more dimensions. But then you also need to balance things like de-identification and expert determination and being able to prove, I can't identify that person. That is where things can start to get incredibly complex. When you're getting into being able to understand, can I identify that person? We have 100 dimensions of this, these people's care. We don't know who they are, but all of it's integrated and tied together. How are we not just protecting our business and being safe internally, but then also protecting the patients, protecting the individuals who are participating in the system, the participants? That becomes a very complex challenge unless you have a lot of clarity and transparency in your environment from a governance perspective, from a security perspective, and from an access perspective. Enabling that as well as protecting that. You need to see who has access, who touched it, who's involved, how is it edited, how is it handled, did it follow procedures, all of those different aspects from end to end, which becomes a very complex problem. When you look at governance and when you look at the visibility of the data, who has accessed it, and again, you get into many dimensions of engagement with that data, and it might be across many systems, many stakeholders, many teams, and it might be across multiple companies as you look at that entire life cycle of GXP across that spectrum. So with that, you need tools that are going to be able to provide you that level of visibility and then stitch that together. So when you have to answer audit questions or you have to provide that reporting, you have that information available, but it's also aligned with the rest of the data that you're going to need to provide as part of those reports. As I'm concerned, the best user experience always wins. This is why I fell in love with Snowflake in the first place. And when I look at the way that you need to implement the complexity of what Immuta is addressing when it comes to security and access and visibility and transparency, for me, it's always the user experience. right? What does it look like for the administrator? What does it look like for the personas who are using the system? What does it look like for the people who need to access it? And from my perspective, that's why there's a winning formula here. A lot of folks up front, especially when things came out, changing as the conversation is maturing, but really focused on the prompts, focused on the AI, focused on that point of interaction, and then between the person who's engaging with the AI or the data and the provider that is providing the actual AI platform itself, the LLM platform. But really, you have to have all the different layers, all the way from your storage, all the way through your, if you have a bronze, silver, gold architecture, up into your semantic layer. You need to have it on all of those. You need to have that transparency and know who has access, who can have access, and who should across all that. And being able to manage that complexity, I think, is a really key competitive advantage.